his throat thickened, making it impossible for him to get the words out. An entire decade's worth of words bottled up under layers of resentment that he directed at those who deserved it least. He gazed at her helplessly, silently pleading for her to understand, and, of course, she did. Agnes always had. There, she said briskly, reaching out to give his hands a squeeze. Nothing to trouble yourself with, nothing at all. You're here when you need to be, and I'm the last to place blame at your feet for staying away as long as you did. Her grip tightened. But that's no to say there isn't someone else you owe an explanation to. Mara, he said, barely suppressing a wince. Agnes might have been heartily into her 60th year, but the Scottish woman had the strength of an ox. In case you haven't heard, she wants nothing to do with me. And for that, I do blame you, Agnes said sternly. Marrying that sweet young girl and then leaving her here at this cold, unfeeling place to fend for herself. With all due respect, Your Grace, what in the name of Benir were you thinking? I'm starting to believe that with all due respect doesn't mean what you and Humphrey think it means, he said dryly, extricating his hands from Agnes's death hold before she ground all the bones in his fingers to dust. It's not uncommon for a husband and wife to live apart. In fact, it's more common than not. For them, maybe, Agnes said with a dismissive turn of her wrist. But not for you, and certainly not for her. You need to fix it. Ambrose snorted. A marriage isn't a torn garment to be repaired. Is it not? When a waistcoat is new, it's easy to care for. A bit of cleaning now and again, but when it starts to fray, as all clothing inevitably does, and the buttons loosen, you have two choices. You can toss it away and buy another, or you can take the time and the dedication to fix what is worn, to fix what you already know fits you. The housekeeper put her hands on her hips, and even though she was a good foot shorter than Ambrose's solid 6 feet, somehow managed to look down her nose at him. Don't be afraid to pick up a needle, Your Grace. Afraid? He thought scornfully, as Agnes followed in Humphrey's footsteps and quit the bedchamber. He wasn't afraid of his marriage or of Mara, and he'd even go so far as to prove it. But later that evening, when he went downstairs, fully expecting the Duchess of Southwick to be waiting for him in the dining room, as he'd requested, she was nowhere to be seen. Fine, he said aloud, scowling at his soup, and then to a footman standing in the corner he growled, Take the other place setting away. The Duchess will not be joining me for dinner. If his dear doting wife, who he was not afraid of, wanted to ignore a direct order and remain hidden away in her private quarters, then she could eat her supper cold. It didn't bother him one way or another. She didn't bother him one way or another. His earlier reactions were likely nothing more than a random sensitivity to dust. Ambrose didn't love his wife. He had to sneeze, and that was that.